So when we're looking, today we're looking at distributive properties. So when we distribute something, we distribute it to everything. And you can only distribute into parentheses or brackets. You don't distribute into absolute values. So you want to make sure that you do that. But notice if I distribute this A to the B and the C, then I get A times B plus A times C. And it doesn't matter if it's before or after. If I do it this way, I get A times B plus B times C, or C times A. And same thing with subtraction. And we distribute that all the way out. So we're multiplying each of these terms. So everything that is separated with pluses are called terms. Each of these terms by whatever is outside and distributing. And this can be used to multiply. If you have bigger numbers, you can split them up into two. That might be easier. And so if we think that these are added or subtracted, you could do either way. So if we look here, here's an example of a word problem where we could use distribution. So Julio walks 5 days a week. Each day he walks at a fast rate for 7 minutes and cools down for 2 minutes. Use the distributive property to write and evaluate an expression that determines the total number of minutes. So total number of minutes, remember total is addition. Julio walks each week. So we know he works 5 days, and each day he does 7 minutes at a fast rate, 2 minutes at a slow rate. Now I know that this can be really easy to do, but we want to show it as a distributive property. So this is going to be key to your homework. You want to show your work, so make sure that you do this in this way when you're, and I'll show you on here how I should ask you to distribute and show that work. So I'm going to take 5 and I'm going to add the 2 plus the 7. And so I'm distributing the 5 with the 2 and the 7. And so we can think of it as 2 times 5 plus, notice my sign's not changing, 7 times 5, which then would be 10 plus 35, which equals 45. And I know that you wouldn't necessarily do things this way when you were figuring out, like you could have taken 7 plus 2, which is 9, and multiply it times 5. But we're showing and demonstrating the distributive property, so you need to also show that in your work. We can do, so if you would work this one out, Suzanne walks to school and home from school 5 days each week. She walks to school 15 minutes and then walks home in 10 minutes. So you're rewriting this 5 times 15 plus 10, and you're solving that out once you're finished. So distribute the 5, and which one of these demonstrates that distributing the 5, and then you should get your answer. So I'm going to wait for a minute and let you work that problem out on your notes, and then I will let you know them. You can also pause the video here. So you should have gotten C on that. So showing that written as multiplying the 15 and the 10 by 5, and you get 125 minutes. So we can also do that here with multiplying. I know I could break the this into, I could break my 82 into maybe 2 numbers that would be easier to multiply. So I could break that, or I can break the 12 into 2 numbers that I can multiply, which probably would be easier because then I'm multiplying smaller numbers. So if I break 12 into 10 plus 2, and then multiplying by 82, and I'm going to distribute that 82 to both. I'm still multiplying. This is still 12. So I'm still multiplying 12 times 82, but I am rewriting it as a distribution problem, and I'm going to do 10 times 82 plus 2 times 82. So I get 820, because anything times 10, we can just add that 0, plus 164. And then I can add those two together and get 984. So that works well with helping us to multiply too, especially if I'm doing two-digit numbers with two-digit numbers. So pause the video, do this one, separate that 50 into two numbers, and then distribute and figure out your answers. You can kind of see that these are all showing the distributive property, so should be somewhere in there. Again, try that out and see what you get. And you should get C. Okay, so we're going to do this a lot more than anything with algebra. We're going to do that with distributing out. So we have a few things. We have numbers here, which we had in, which was all we were doing was all numbers, and we have variables. So remember that our variables that don't have a power showing, their power is actually 1. And when we multiply variables, so if I multiply y times y, we actually are adding those exponents. So I get y squared. So I'm going to show this as distributive property by distributing out the 12y to the y and to the 3. So I would do 12y times y, showing that distributing out, keep my plus, and then 12y, and I'm going to put parentheses around that so we get in habits of that, times 3. So again, here I have 1y here and y to the 1 here. So I'm going to add those together. And my number here is just 1. So I'm going 12 times 1. I'm multiplying numbers. 12 times 1 is 12. Y times y is y to the 1 plus 1 power, or 2. And then here I'm doing 12 times 3. So always multiplying like things. 12 times 3 is 36. And then there's no y to multiply to, so I get 12y squared plus 36y. Let's look at if I have more than one term. So here I have 3 terms. So I have y squared, 8y, and 2. And I'm distributing out a 4 to all of those. So I'm going to do 4 times y squared, 4 times 8y, and 4 times 2. Now I know some of you can just do that, but I want you to show that distribution property. It'll make sense later. Let's see if I did here. There we go. So I'm going to do. I'm going to do 4 times the y squared term, and I'm just keeping my signs here. 4 times the 8y, and I'm going to show 4 multiplying to the 2. Then we can multiply. 4 times y is like 4 times 1, and then the y squared is there, so it'd be 4y squared. 4 times 8 is 32, so it'd be 32y. And 4 times 2 is 8. So signs aren't changing there because I'm distributing at a positive. So try this one on your notes. Again, make sure you show those steps. I'm going to do that today, and then we'll go away from having to show each step as long as see understanding with that. So once you show your steps, you should have 6x minus 6 times 4. 6 times x is 6x. Negative 6 times 4 is 24. At this one, we're distributing out my 3x to each one. So again, I'm going to add my powers. So I'm doing 3x times x cubed plus 3x times 2x squared minus 3x times 5x plus 3x times 7. Remember, powers we're going to add, and this power is 1, so 3 times 1, if I don't have a number there, it's 1. 3 times 1 is 3, and then 1 plus 3 is 4, so it'd be x to the 4th. 3 times 2 is 6, and then 1 plus 2 is 3, so x cubed. 3 times 5 is 15. 1 plus 1, because those are power of both my x's, this 1 plus 1 is 2. Plus 3 times 7 is 21. And then x. So we want to look at distributing the negative. I want to have a negative, so we'll do the same process. This is where the parentheses is really important, because I am not only just multiplying by x, I'm multiplying by negative 1. So I distribute, so this term is negative x, put parentheses around it, times negative x plus, that's this plus, 9 times negative x. So I have a negative times a negative, 2 negatives, an even number of negatives, which is positive, and my powers are 1 and 1, so I add those and get 2. Here I have a positive and a negative, so there's only one negative, so this is going to be negative 9x. So notice what happens when we multiply by negative. We are actually just doing opposites in here. So this became positive, this became negative, but then we were multiplying by x also. So go ahead and do this one. Make sure you show your steps. And you should get negative 3x minus x squared as your answer. So here we have a little bit more, but same type of concept. We're going to distribute this whole negative 8x squared to both of these. So I'm going to do negative 5x squared. I'm going to put parentheses around that, times negative 8x squared. This minus here, 2 times negative 8x squared. So my powers I add, I multiply my numbers. A negative times a negative is a positive, because I have 2 negatives, it's a positive answer. 5 times 8 is 40. And then I'm going to add my powers. 2 plus 2 is 4. Here, this negative is subtraction, but we're going to multiply. Again, I have 2 negatives, so that becomes a positive. 2 times 8 is 16, and then x squared. Practice this one out, and then once you're finished with that, you can start on your worksheet.